the benefits of a flat structure, if it's successful, is that it's an equitable context in which everybody can contribute in a way that they feel represents themselves honestly, but also contributes to the work effectively, I suppose. And that things can be challenged and rethought in a way that is welcoming of everyone's voice. Our core value is that art is part of everyday life and that art is for everyone. And in order to prove that we mean that, we have to value everyone's creative ability equally, and we have to demonstrate that everybody has an equal value and is entitled to an equal contribution to the shaping of culture and society. And so without a flat pay structure, those things feel like they're an intention rather than a promise.
This idea that, we can earn an amount of money that's the same for everybody opens up the possibility that we're actually trying to value something else.
For a while I felt like a real imposter. I thought I'm not deserving of this wage because they are so on it with their vocabulary and they're so on it with what they know, and they're so on it with like systems and computers. One thing I was really uncomfortable with when I started In-Situ was people asking me what I thought of something.
I think we should always be open to exploring and discussing what people think we could be doing or should be doing.
I guess over time, In-Situ's got me to think more and to listen more and to talk more as well. And I guess these three things go hand in hand, don't they?
We've always had an ability to be able to respond to people, and what that person brings has always added something else to the dynamic of what has become In-Situ.
Stepping into In-Situ was really super daunting for me. I didn't see a lot of In-Situ's methodology being a participant, and then obviously working and now coming into it to be a part of the team. The work has had an astonishing impact on my thinking, my career, everything.
I think another strength of operating in a flat, structured way is that people feel as though they can evolve themselves and evolve their role within the organisation, and that they're encouraged to do so. But tied into that, of course, is another challenge, which is that when people feel ready for new challenges or feel ready for an evolution in their role, oftentimes their previous responsibilities don't disappear. And so it requires the team to reform in a way to absorb responsibilities or to reconsider the way that we're working to enable that person to grow in their practice.
In-Situ has always flexed and responded to individuals that have come in.
So it's a conversation and it's a collaborative effort to try and get this balance between what the organisation needs, what the place needs, and what individuals need within it.
Where is the line between someone doing what they want because they're interested in it and what holds it all together? So yeah, this might be really interesting for you to do, but how does it connect back to what we're delivering? The idea that you can have freedom in your role and you're not managed in the traditional sense of somebody checking on what you've done or telling you what to do has always been a bit of a tricky area for people coming in. So on one hand, people like the idea of what we say, but there is a reality to it that I think for some people it takes a while to adjust to like what this actually means.
One of the challenges I think about working in In-Situ is that there's no one telling you whether you've done it right, and there's nobody telling you what you ought to be doing next. It took me a year or two to really get used to the idea that I wasn't being managed. It was down to me and my reading of the organisation's aims and what needed doing within my role.
I thought, I just don't see this working without there being a driving force or a leader or somebody checking in on everything. Obviously my thinking shifted on that.
The coaching methodology that In-Situ has is the belief that you should empower the individual to be able to see or trust their own instincts around things.
I've had to learn to be able to trust the processes that I believe in, and I've encouraged within the organisation, or helped to develop within what we have at In-Situ.
You're having to learn to really trust yourself. Trust enables you to empower others to get on and do what they feel with the methods that they feel are the most relevant. People are given time and space to develop things at their own pace. Not everybody works at the same pace, or people come to cognition about things at different stages in a process.
I do wonder what it's like for someone that's come into the organisation and we're the first people they've ever worked with. What is it then like to go and work for somewhere else? And I know that some people do struggle and they find it difficult because we've set a precedent in another way. I don't know whether you sort of have to say this is not normal to people coming in.
Of all the organisations that I've worked with, In-Situ feels the most comfortable with the idea of allowing people to fail. Sometimes things haven't been a success in ordinary terms, but perhaps there's always been one conversation, or there's been one little thing that you noticed that sparked your interest that you go back to in future, and that becomes the germ of a new project or a new thought. And I think that you need time and space actually to be able to notice those things. I think when we're working in such a busy way, you can't always notice the opportunities that are happening when something appears to be not working. The model that we have is reliant on the team all taking shared responsibility for anything that might arise.
A challenge of the work is that you're trusted to be your own guide, and although there's points of check-in, you need to activate the process for support if you need it. And so if you're not in a place to identify that you need additional help, or feel confident to speak out against a current situation, the support can be delayed. You have to be forthcoming and be in a personal context to have the ability to be forthcoming in order to challenge or complain or adjust the way that things are working.
Anytime we do come across conflict or challenges, we take it on and it's talked about. But I think we have this real sort of durability that means, okay, we've done that wrong, that's happened, but we're really good at moving forward with things. We're really good at moving on.
Quite often, policy and things that seem dry form a really strong backbone and foundation for these things to come into practice. As a team member, when you identify a piece of the organisational structure or policy that is missing, as well as dealing with the problem in real time, you have to also begin the process of writing the resolution. And the duality of that situation of not being able to pass on the route to resolve to a colleague can be challenging. You have to continue to deliver your workload, to speak honestly about the problem you're experiencing, and begin to identify the solution all at the same time.
Whatever comes up, we need to deal with ourselves. We need to discuss, make decisions on, come up with resolutions for issues that might arise.
The benefits outweigh the challenges, but it demands constant upkeep.
The intentions that we have around our flat structure actually take a lot of time to uphold. We can mobilise very quickly within this structure to meet need as it arises or to respond to opportunities when they come up. Because we're able to mobilise quickly, we're able to take on more work, but there's a point at which we're being spread more thinly. As In-Situ grows in scale, the number of people working within the organisation doesn't really increase that much. there's a balance between those opportunities, but also the level of care and the level of support that's needed within the team.
How we've started to put the team first before the work, I think, is something that's kind of developed over the last 2 or 3 years in response to kind of key things that have come up, and how do we understand the well-being of the team, because the work is challenging. If we're going to try and do as good as we can do with the communities that we live and work with, we've all got to be healthy to do that. And I've definitely been guilty of like, we should just power on, whatever. It's just finding that happy medium of where we have to be aware of each other and be better at understanding each other so that we don't reach the breaking points. And I think we've had those experiences of breaking points. And I think now, we're in a better position to be aware of each other, to be listening and responding and try and deal with it as we go, which gives us space to be able to keep going and also make sure we're healthy. So I think we've learnt a lot in terms of like drawing back from stuff, reducing down, saying no to some work maybe, like okay, no, we just don't have time to do that. I feel like there is an element of privilege that we have. You know, we get 3 or 4 years money where we have some security, so everybody knows they've got a job for 3 or 4 years. That's very different to someone who's running a different type of business. There's a responsibility over public money. I feel there's a responsibility of where that money comes from and what we're trying to do. There is something about what we are contributing to being useful in our community, and someone is giving us the money to do that. I feel like that has an impact on like, yeah, I've got to make sure I do this, I've got to turn up and do this, no matter what I feel like, even though I know that that's not ideal and that's not great for everybody. This is how I feel about it.
When I talk about like In-Situ's support for each other, for individuals, for our team members, I don't think I've experienced anything like it. I've never seen anything like it. In-Situ, there is full understanding of the fact that, hold on a minute, before you are a practitioner, you are a person. And you are a person with your own life, your own responsibilities, your children. I would never have even imagined or envisioned that there would be an organisation that would support individuals the way it does here at In-Situ.
So I think in recognition of this and knowing that our activities are scaling up all the time, even though it feels counterintuitive to give more time to upholding the structure of the organisation, it's really important because it's the bedrock of what we're doing. It's the foundation that we're building the programme on.